On November 1st, 2020, Linnea Mills, an 18-year-old aspiring marine biologist, embarked on what should have been a routine training dive in Lake McDonald. But as she descended into the lake's icy depths, her dream of exploring the wonders of the ocean would collide with the harsh realities of high-altitude diving. Lake McDonald, located at an elevation of about 3,153 feet above sea level, presents unique challenges for divers due to the reduced atmospheric pressure. This high-altitude environment affects buoyancy and the rate at which nitrogen is absorbed and released by the body, increasing the risk of decompression sickness. The clear skies and calm waters of the lake that morning gave no indication of the tragedy that was about to unfold, a tragedy that would raise serious questions about safety standards in the diving community and ultimately lead to a hard-fought battle for justice. Linnea's journey to that tragic day began long before she ever donned a wetsuit. Growing up in Missoula, Montana, she was surrounded by the breathtaking beauty of the Rocky Mountains. From a young age, Linnea was captivated by the natural world around her. She spent countless hours exploring the forests, rivers, and lakes, always eager to discover something new. But while she loved the mountains, it was the water that truly captured her imagination. The local swimming pool became her sanctuary, a place where she could immerse herself in her dreams of the ocean. Linnea would often imagine herself as a marine explorer swimming among the creatures of the deep sea. Her fascination with the underwater world only grew stronger when her family traveled to Australia's Great Barrier Reef. The vibrant corals, colorful fish, and the vast expanse of the reef were unlike anything she had ever seen. It was a world teeming with life, and Linnea was in awe. It was during this trip that Linnea's passion for marine biology ignited. Surrounded by the wonders of the reef, she made a decision that would shape the rest of her life. She would dedicate herself to studying and protecting the ocean's fragile ecosystems. The experience was transformative, solidifying her ambition to become a marine biologist and leading her to pursue diving as a way to connect more deeply with the marine environment she loved. Back in Montana, Linnea's passion for diving continued to grow. She threw herself into her studies, excelling in science courses and seeking out every opportunity to learn more about marine biology. Her friends and family knew her as someone who was both intelligent and compassionate, a young woman driven by a desire to make a difference in the world. For Linnea, diving was not just a sport, it was her gateway to the underwater world she longed to protect. But Lake McDonald presented a challenge unlike anything Linnea had faced before. Located deep within Glacier National Park, the lake is known for its crystal-clear waters, stretching over 10 miles. But beneath that serene surface lies an environment both beautiful and treacherous. Even in summer, the water remains frigid, and by November, it hovers just above freezing. High-altitude diving, as required at Lake McDonald, brings its own set of challenges. The reduced atmospheric pressure at such elevations makes buoyancy control more difficult, and decompression, essential for preventing nitrogen bubbles from forming in the bloodstream, becomes far more complex. For even the most experienced divers, these conditions demand meticulous preparation and acute awareness of the risks involved. Linnea, despite her dedication and passion, was still relatively new to diving in such extreme environments. Her previous experience had been in the warm, clear waters of tropical reefs, worlds apart from the cold, high-altitude conditions she faced in Lake McDonald. As she prepared for the dive, the magnitude of these challenges was only beginning to dawn on her. Scuba diving has always carried inherent risks. In its early days, enthusiasts had little more than basic gear and a thirst for adventure. As the sport grew in popularity, technological advancements made it safer and more accessible. Among the most significant of these innovations was the development of dry suits, allowing divers to explore cold water environments that would otherwise be off-limits. However, this technology also brings new challenges. Dry suits, while essential for cold water diving, require specific training and careful handling. A single mistake, like failing to connect the inflator hose, can have deadly consequences. The Professional Association of Diving Instructors, PADI, plays a crucial role in the diving industry. As the leading international organization responsible for setting and maintaining diving standards, PADI provides the framework for safety protocols, training, and equipment use. However, PADI-certified dive centers, like Gull Dive in Missoula, Montana, operate independently under PADI's guidelines. This setup can sometimes lead to gaps in safety enforcement, as tragically demonstrated in Linnea's case. Linnea's story serves as a stark reminder that even the most advanced equipment and established standards cannot eliminate the dangers associated with diving. The sport demands not only physical preparedness, but also a deep respect for the environment and unwavering attention to detail. Sadly, as the events of that day would reveal, the necessary precautions were not in place, and the consequences were devastating. The dive school Linnea attended, Gull Dive, had a solid reputation in the community. Known for its experienced instructors and comprehensive courses, it was seen as a reliable entry point into the world of diving. But as the investigation into Linnea's death would later reveal, this reputation masked significant shortcomings in the school's practices. Debbie Snow and Seth Liston, the instructors leading the dive, were seasoned divers with years of experience under their belts. Yet, their expertise did not extend to the specific challenges posed by dry suits and high-altitude diving. In the days leading up to the dive, signs of trouble were already present. Purchased a second-hand dry suit in preparation for the dive, but it had not been thoroughly checked by the instructors. The missing inflator hose, a crucial component for maintaining buoyancy in the cold, pressurized waters, was overlooked, a mistake that would prove fatal. The day of the dive began like any other. The group of divers gathered on the shore of Lake McDonald, the temperature already dropping as the sun dipped lower in the sky. There was a sense of excitement among the group, but also a quiet understanding that this dive would be challenging. Linnea, ever focused and determined, was eager to prove herself. She had been diligent in her preparations, but in the final rush to enter the water, the critical oversight regarding her dry suit went unnoticed. As the divers descended into the lake, the world above disappeared, replaced by the cold, dark silence of the depths. The deeper they went, the more the pressure mounted, the water pressing in from all sides. It wasn't long before Linnea began to feel the effects. Her suit, lacking the necessary inflator hose, started to constrict around her body, making it increasingly difficult to move and breathe. Panic began to set in. She signaled for help, but in the murky waters, her distress went unnoticed. The cold, once a manageable discomfort, now threatened to overwhelm her as her strength and will began to fade. In the silence of the lake, Linnea realized with growing horror that she might not make it back to the surface. Linnea's death highlighted the dangers of complacency in an industry where lives are at stake. Dive schools, driven by the need to attract clients and maintain steady business, sometimes cut corners, overlooking critical safety protocols in favor of expediency. The pressure to deliver quick results and certify divers rapidly can lead to inadequate training and insufficient preparation for the challenges of the underwater world. This is not a new problem. For years, the diving industry has faced criticism for its inconsistent enforcement of safety standards. Organizations like PADI Worldwide provide guidelines and certifications, but the implementation of these standards varies widely from one school to another. Linnea's death is a tragic example of what can happen when these standards are not rigorously enforced. It raises urgent questions about the entire system, demanding a comprehensive reevaluation of how the industry operates and how it can better protect those who seek to explore the underwater world. After the tragic incident, troubling actions further compounded the grief. Deborah Snow, one of the instructors, removed Linnea's dive computer and course paperwork, critical pieces of evidence that could have provided insights into the events leading up to the accident. This act raised suspicions of a potential cover-up, adding another layer of negligence and misconduct to the already devastating situation. The tragic outcome of Linnea's dive was not just the result of individual errors, but a symptom of deeper systemic issues within the diving industry. It was later revealed that Gull Dive had been involved in a previous fatal incident due to faulty equipment, underscoring a pattern of negligence at the dive center. This history adds a grave layer of seriousness to the systemic problems within the school and raises urgent questions about the effectiveness of oversight within the diving industry. For Linnea's family, the fight for justice did not end with her death. The $12 million negligence lawsuit filed against the dive school, its owners, and PADI Worldwide was about more than compensation. It was about holding those responsible accountable for the preventable loss of a young life. In court, the case exposed the dive school's lack of proper gear checks, the inadequate training provided to both instructors and students, and the failure to adhere to industry standards. It also raised broader questions about the responsibility of organizations like PADI Worldwide in ensuring that their certified dive schools uphold the highest levels of safety. The legal battle was not just a quest for justice for Linnea, it was about setting a precedent. It forced the industry to confront its shortcomings and implement changes that could save lives in the future. The lawsuit brought national attention to the dangers of inadequate safety protocols in diving and sparked a wider conversation about the need for reform. Linnea's family refused to let her story fade into the background. Their grief became a driving force for change as they continued to push for greater accountability and safety within the diving industry. They spoke out in interviews, attended diving safety conferences, and collaborated with advocacy groups to promote stricter regulations and better training for divers and instructors alike. Their efforts began to bear fruit, with some dive schools reevaluating their safety protocols and implementing more rigorous checks. However, the question remains, can these reforms truly prevent the next tragedy, or are they merely a band-aid on a wound that requires much deeper healing? Linnea's family knows that no amount of reform can bring her back, but they hope that by sharing her story, they can spare other families the pain they have endured. Their advocacy is not just about holding those responsible accountable, but about creating a safer future for all divers. Linnea Rose Mills was a young woman full of potential and passion. Her story is a powerful reminder of the importance of thorough preparation and vigilance in high-risk activities. Her loss is deeply felt, but her legacy is one of change, a movement toward greater safety and accountability that has the potential to save lives in the future. May her memory serve as a reminder of the critical importance of safety, and may it inspire the necessary changes in an industry that must do better to protect its divers.